Extreme Cold Survival Exam reaches its heart-stopping climax when a massive ice stalker attacks the shelter, tearing through walls that took days to build. Against all instincts, Maya charges the predator, driving her ice spear deep into its throat. Blood steams in the freezing air as she narrowly escapes its slashing claws, her sacrifice earning respect from the alien team. The ship's chains descended slowly through the blinding snowstorm, metallic links creaking under the strain of Arctic winds. Through the vessel's viewport, Maya Lin watched as twin moons briefly illuminated the frozen wasteland of Cryon 7 before disappearing again behind thick clouds. The temperature reading flashed ominously on her wristband. 50 degrees C and dropping. "Final equipment check," announced the robotic voice overhead. "Survival examination commencing in 5 minutes." Maya adjusted her thermal gloves and ran through her mental checklist one last time. At 30 years old, she was the only human among the 12 contestants vying for a position in the Interplanetary Survival Strategic Unit. Her military reserve rank of major meant little here, but her years of Arctic rescue experience might give her the edge she needed. Around her, the alien contestants shifted nervously. The winged Aven candidate's feathers rustled anxiously, while the reptilian Norvik's scales had already taken on a concerning bluish tint. Maya caught fragments of whispered conversations, mostly concerns about a human's presence in such an elite program. "Survival fundamentals don't change, even across galaxies," she reminded herself quietly. "Steel nerves, Maya, just like Baffin Island." The ship's floor separated beneath them, exposing the howling wilderness below. A tall, translucent alien with 4 arms approached Maya, extending a standard-issue survival pack. "Major Lin, your equipment. Academy regulations. 1 thermal survival suit, 1 knife, 1 pack of ration bars. No weapons, no technology beyond basic necessities." The alien's voice was clinical, emotionless. "You have 48 hours to survive. Communications blackout initiates in 30 seconds." Maya accepted the pack with a nod. "Understood. I must inform you that the committee expressed concerns about including a human in this examination," the alien added, lowering its voice. "Your species lacks certain evolutionary advantages for extreme environments." Maya's jaw tightened. "Noted. Commencing drop in 10 seconds, announced the overhead system. 9, 8. Maya closed her eyes briefly, centering herself as she had been taught by her Arctic survival mentor. 7, 6, 5. The alien contestants positioned themselves near the opening, their bodies built for environments humans could barely comprehend. 4, 3, 2. "Steel nerves," Maya whispered again. 1. The floor vanished completely. Maya felt her stomach lurch as she plummeted through frigid air, the specialized drop suit automatically deploying air resistance panels to slow her descent. The ice-laden wind bit at the exposed portions of her face, a cruel preview of what awaited below. The impact jarred her knees despite the suit's absorption technology. Around her, the alien contestants landed with varying degrees of grace, some with natural wings or specialized limbs, others with technological assistance built into their survival suits. Maya quickly scanned her surroundings, assessing the alien landscape. Cryon 7 stretched before them in a vast expanse of blue-white desolation. Jagged ice formations towered like skyscrapers, while windswept snow plains extended to the horizon. The twin moons, one pale blue, one silvery white, peeked through rapidly moving clouds, casting eerie shadows across the terrain. A piercing scream cut through the howling wind. Maya turned to see an Aven candidate struggling to fold its wings, the delicate feather-like appendages already stiffening with frost. Nearby, a Norvik contestant had slipped into a narrow ice crevasse, green blood staining the pristine white surface. Survival instinct kicked in immediately. Maya knew the first priority in any extreme environment: shelter. The committee had intentionally dropped them in an area with minimal natural protection, forcing the contestants to demonstrate their adaptability. "We need to find cover," Maya shouted over the wind to the nearest contestants. "This exposure will kill even the most cold-adapted among us within hours." A tall, multi-limbed alien with translucent skin turned toward her, voice distorted by specialized breathing apparatus. "And you presume to lead us, human? Your species barely survived its own ice ages." Maya didn't waste time arguing. "I've survived 13 Arctic rescue missions in conditions similar to these. Follow me, or don't. Your choice." She began moving methodically across the terrain, careful to test each step before committing her weight. The landscape was treacherous. What appeared to be solid ground sometimes concealed deep fissures or thin ice sheets over deadly drops. As she moved, Maya analyzed the environment, noting wind patterns, ice formations, and potential shelter locations. The wind was coming predominantly from the northwest, carrying needle-sharp ice crystals that stung any exposed skin. Maya adjusted her path to minimize direct exposure, using the larger ice formations as temporary windbreaks. As she crested a small ridge, she spotted a promising depression in the terrain about half a kilometer ahead, possibly the remains of an ancient impact crater, now filled with ice and snow. Behind her, Maya heard labored breathing and the crunch of footsteps. Several contestants had decided to follow her after all, including the injured Norvik, who was being supported by 2 others. The Avon with the frozen wings hobbled painfully, its natural flying advantage neutralized by the extreme cold. "The crater ahead might provide natural protection from the wind," Maya called back. "We can assess it for shelter potential." A rumbling voice responded, the multi-limbed alien who had questioned her earlier. "This is individual assessment, human. Why help competitors?" Maya continued forward without breaking stride. "Because survival increases exponentially with cooperation. Basic human knowledge." As they approached the crater's edge, Maya's hopes rose. The depression was indeed substantial, nearly 30 meters deep with relatively gradual slopes on the southern side. Most importantly, it contained something Maya hadn't expected to find: a frozen lake at its center, with visible ice fractures and formations that could potentially be converted into a shelter. "Down there," she pointed. "We can use the ice formations for basic structure and modify them to create an insulated space." The Avon contestant chirped skeptically, its beak chattering from cold. "With what tools? We have nothing but basic knives." Maya unsheathed her knife, studying its serrated edge. "This is all we need. Ice is both our enemy and our resource here." Not everyone was convinced. 3 contestants, a silicon-based life form, and 2 methane breathers with specialized suits, broke away from the group, heading toward distant mountain formations. Maya watched them go, knowing the dangers of splitting up but respecting their decision. "Anyone who's staying, follow me," she said simply, beginning her careful descent into the crater. The descent proved treacherous. Twice, Maya nearly lost her footing on hidden ice patches. The injured Norvik slipped again, reopening its wound and leaving a trail of green fluid that immediately crystallized in the cold. Maya made a mental note to address that bleeding soon. The scent of alien blood might attract predators, if this planet harbored any. At the crater floor, Maya immediately set to work examining the frozen lake. As she had hoped, natural fracturing had created several large ice sheets that had been pushed upward by pressure, forming tent-like structures. One formation in particular caught her attention. A natural ice cave formed where several sheets had collapsed against each other, creating a space about 3 meters wide and 2 meters high at its tallest point. "This will be our base," Maya announced. "Natural ice cave with good structural integrity. We'll expand it and insulate it." The multi-limbed alien stepped forward, its translucent skin revealing complex circulatory pathways pulsing with blue fluid. "And how do you propose to insulate ice in temperatures that would freeze your blood in minutes?" Maya was already examining the knife's effectiveness against the ice. Traditional Arctic survival techniques. We layer materials, trap air pockets, use what's available. See these? She pointed to strange, reddish-orange growths clinging to some of the ice formations. Ice algae, insulative properties. And if we're lucky, we'll find more resources as we work. She began carefully enlarging the cave entrance, using the knife to chip away at weak points in the ice structure. The serrated edge was surprisingly effective, though the work was slow. Maya established a rhythm, conserving energy while making steady progress. The Avon candidate approached cautiously. "My wings! I cannot fold them properly. The ice has damaged the joint membranes." Maya paused her work, examining the beautiful but fragile appendages. They resembled dragonfly wings, more than bird feathers, with delicate veining now crusted with ice crystals. "Come inside the partial shelter," she instructed. "Even this incomplete protection reduces wind exposure by 40%. I need to help the Norvik with that wound. Then, I'll see what I can do for your wings." Inside the embryonic shelter, Maya found the Norvik sitting against an ice wall, clutching its leg. The reptilian alien's normally vibrant green scales had dulled to a sickly olive, and its breathing was shallow. "May I?" Maya asked, gesturing to the wound. The Norvik nodded weakly. Maya carefully examined the gash, about 15 centimeters long and alarmingly deep, exposing what appeared to be muscle tissue beneath the scales. "I need to stop this bleeding and close the wound," Maya explained, retrieving her survival pack. She removed her outer gloves, keeping on the thin thermal liners to maintain dexterity while preventing her fingers from freezing to the alien's skin. From her minimal supplies, Maya extracted a small emergency medical kit, standard issue for all contestants. It contained basic antiseptic, a coagulant powder, and a small roll of thermal bandage. Not ideal, but workable. "This will sting," she warned before applying the antiseptic. The Norvik hissed, but remained still as Maya cleaned the wound, applied coagulant, and then wrapped it tightly with the thermal bandage. The medical material began to glow faintly as it activated, providing both compression and warmth to the injured area. "Rest here while I continue working on our shelter," Maya instructed. "Try to move the leg occasionally to prevent stiffening, but don't put weight on it yet." As Maya returned to enlarging the ice cave, memories of her last Arctic rescue mission surfaced unbidden. 3 years ago, a research team had become stranded when their shelter collapsed during a sudden storm. Maya had led the rescue operation, fighting through whiteout conditions to reach them. They'd found 2 researchers alive, but the third had succumbed to hypothermia hours before their arrival. That failure had haunted her, eventually leading to her resignation from active duty and retreat to a reserve position. Now, on an alien world with conditions even more extreme, Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders once again. She couldn't fail these beings as she had failed that researcher. "I won't lose anyone this time," she whispered to herself, attacking the ice with renewed determination. Hours passed as Maya methodically expanded the ice cave, creating a space large enough to accommodate all the remaining contestants. The work kept her warm, despite the plummeting temperature outside. But she was careful to pace herself, taking brief rests to prevent overexertion and dehydration. During one such rest, Maya spotted something half buried in the ice near the cave's far wall, a dark mass that didn't match the surrounding terrain. Curious, she carefully chipped around it, eventually freeing what appeared to be the preserved remains of a native creature. The corpse was remarkably intact, protected by the preservative effects of the extreme cold. It resembled a large, 6-limbed mammal with thick fur and a tapered snout. Most importantly, its hide was intact, a potentially valuable resource. "Found something?" Maya called to the others. "Local fauna, deceased but preserved. The hide could provide critical insulation." The multi-limbed alien approached, examining the find with compound eyes. Impressive observation. You intend to use the remains. In survival, we use every resource available, Maya confirmed, already working to separate the hide from the frozen corpse. No disrespect to the creature, but its death could ensure our survival. The task was grim, but necessary. Using her knife, Maya carefully skinned the animal, preserving as much of the hide as possible. The fur was unlike anything she'd seen, dense and surprisingly flexible even when frozen. As she worked, she discovered another valuable resource. Beneath the outer fur layer was a second layer of fine, downy fibers with exceptional insulative properties. By the time Maya finished processing the animal hide, the ice cave had been expanded to a chamber roughly 5 meters in diameter, with a ceiling high enough for even the tallest contestant to stand comfortably. The entrance had been kept deliberately small, just large enough to slip through to minimize heat loss. Maya gathered the remaining contestants. Besides herself, the Avon, and the injured Norvik, there were 4 others who had chosen to join their group: the multi-limbed translucent alien, who had introduced itself as Kallax, a stocky, silicon-based life form with crystalline growths, and 2 humanoid contestants with bioluminescent skin markings. "Our primary shelter structure is complete," Maya explained. "Now we need to make it habitable. Insulation is our priority." She demonstrated how to affix strips of animal hide to the ice walls, creating an inner lining that would trap precious body heat and provide a barrier between them and the ice. The strange reddish ice algae she had noticed earlier was harvested and packed into gaps between ice blocks, providing additional insulation. "Kallax, your height and multiple limbs make you ideal for ceiling work," Maya suggested. "Could you attach these larger hide sections overhead?" The alien, who had been the most skeptical initially, inclined its upper body in what Maya interpreted as agreement. "Your methodology is unexpected but logical. I will assist." The Avon, whose wings had been carefully treated by Maya, using warm compresses made from heated stones found near thermal vents, approached with a proposition. "My people build ice structures on our homeworld. I can create interlocking ice scales for the outer wall, additional stability and wind protection." Maya smiled encouragingly. "Perfect. Show me how." The Avon demonstrated a technique for cutting thin, overlapping ice plates that could be positioned like shingles against the shelter's exterior. The design allowed snow to accumulate in the overlaps, providing natural reinforcement. Meanwhile, the Norvik, though still injured, had begun fashioning ice tools, crude but effective implements that allowed for more precise cutting and shaping than their basic knives. The reptilian aliens' natural understanding of structural integrity proved invaluable as they reinforced weak points in the ice cave. Maya felt a surge of pride as their shelter, soon dubbed Echo by Kallax due to its acoustic properties, took shape. Each contestant contributed unique skills and perspectives, creating something far more sophisticated than any individual could have managed alone. As they worked, Maya shared stories of Earth's Arctic indigenous peoples, the Inuit, Sami, and others who had mastered cold weather survival over thousands of years. "My ancestors built shelters from ice and snow long before modern technology," she explained, while demonstrating how to create a raised sleeping platform that would keep them off the cold floor. They understood that simple physics and natural materials could overcome even the most extreme environments. Kallax, who had become increasingly engaged in their project, manipulated 4 limbs simultaneously to secure ceiling insulation. "Your species compensates for physical limitations with remarkable adaptability. Perhaps this is why the committee included you in this examination." By the end of their first 12 hours on Cryon 7, Echo had transformed from a simple ice cave into a sophisticated survival shelter. The interior was lined completely with animal hide and algae insulation. Ventilation had been carefully controlled through a small opening near the ceiling. The entrance featured a winding corridor with multiple turns to block wind and create an airlock effect. Most importantly, the internal temperature had risen dramatically, from the external, 55 degrees Celsius, to a relatively comfortable 5 degrees, maintained solely by their combined body heat and strategic design. Outside, the storm had intensified. Wind howled across the crater, carrying ice particles that sandblasted any exposed surface. The three contestants who had separated from their group had not returned, and Maya worried about their fate. "We should rest in shifts," Maya suggested, as the alien equivalent of night descended. "Two awake at all times to maintain the shelter and watch for emergencies." The group agreed, arranging themselves on the raised sleeping platform, where body heat could be shared efficiently. Maya volunteered for the first watch alongside Kallax, whose species apparently required minimal rest. As the others settled into sleep cycles, Maya sat near the entrance, knife ready, watching the swirling snow outside. The twin moons had emerged again, casting an ethereal glow across the frozen landscape. "You fear predators," Kallax observed quietly, settling beside her. Maya nodded. "Any environment harsh enough to produce that thick-furred creature we found would likely harbor predators adapted to hunt in these conditions." "Logical assessment," Kallax agreed. "The committee would not design a survival test without multiple challenges." They sat in companionable silence for several minutes before Kallax spoke again. "You mentioned a previous Arctic mission. I sense it troubles you still." Maya stiffened, surprised by the alien's perception. "I failed someone who depended on me. A researcher died because we didn't reach him in time." "Yet you continue to lead and protect others," Kallax noted, compound eyes reflecting moonlight. "Most species retreat from past failures. Humans are stubborn that way," Maya replied with a sad smile. "We keep trying, even when the odds seem impossible." "A valuable trait," Kallax said simply. Their conversation was interrupted by a low, haunting call from somewhere beyond the crater rim, a sound unlike anything Maya had heard before, primal and distinctly predatory. "It seems your instincts were correct," Kallax whispered. Maya tightened her grip on the knife. "Let's hope our shelter is as effective as we think it is." The second day brought new challenges. Two more contestants arrived at Echo Shelter, survivors from the group that had initially separated. They reported that their third companion had succumbed to the cold after falling through thin ice into a hidden crevasse. The news cast a somber mood over the shelter, reinforcing the deadly reality of their situation. Maya organized the expanded group into teams, assigning specific responsibilities based on individual strengths. The Avon, whose wings had partially recovered, took charge of ice-scale production with the help of the new arrivals. The Norvik, though still limping, supervised structural reinforcements with the silicon-based contestant. Maya and Kallax focused on expanding the shelter to accommodate the new arrivals and improving insulation techniques. During their excavation, they discovered a new resource, a layer of geothermal activity deep beneath the ice, manifesting as warm vapor vents that could be carefully channeled into the shelter for additional heating. "This changes everything," Maya exclaimed, feeling the relatively warm air rising from a small fissure. "If we can control this flow without weakening the structure, we could raise the internal temperature significantly." Kallax examined the vent with specialized sensory organs. "The gas appears non-toxic to most of our respiratory systems. However, directing it will require precise engineering." Together, they developed a system of narrow ice channels that guided the warm vapor through the shelter walls, creating a primitive but effective radiant heating system. The temperature inside Echo rose to just above freezing, a remarkable achievement that allowed the contestants to remove their outer layers for the first time since landing. As they worked, Maya noticed increasing respect in the way the alien contestants interacted with her. Initial skepticism had given way to collaboration and even deference in matters of survival strategy. The Avon had taken to following Maya closely, absorbing her techniques and occasionally adding refinements based on its own cultural knowledge. Not everyone was fully convinced. However, one of the newly arrived contestants, a tall, gelatinous being with multiple brain-like organs, visible through its transparent body, remained aloof and critical. "This shelter is primitive," it commented during a group meal of ration bars. "On my world, we would simply generate a thermal field and repel the cold." "Without technology, what would you do?" Maya asked, genuinely curious. The alien pulsed dismissively. "Without technology, my kind would never have evolved. Your reliance on physical adaptation is antiquated." Maya smiled patiently. "Yet, here we all are, using antiquated methods to survive. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the most reliable." Before the alien could respond, a tremendous crack echoed through the shelter. One of the ceiling supports had fractured under accumulating ice weight, sending a shower of ice shards onto the sleeping platform. Maya reacted instantly. "Everyone out! Move to the entrance corridor!" The group scrambled to safety as more ice cracked and shifted. Once everyone was clear, Maya assessed the damage. A support column had failed, causing a partial collapse of the northwest section. Fortunately, the main structure remained intact. "We need to rebuild that section stronger than before," Maya decided. "Calyx, you mentioned your homeworld has similar ice formations. Any structural suggestions?" The multi-limbed alien considered for a moment. "Flying buttress principles would distribute weight more effectively. We could implement a modified version with the ice materials available." The repair work took hours of careful engineering and physical labor. Maya worked alongside the aliens, her hands blistered and raw despite her gloves. The setback was frustrating, but she refused to let it derail their progress. "Arctic survival rule number 1, she told the group as they worked. Expect failure, adapt quickly, never stop moving forward." By late afternoon, the shelter had been not only repaired, but improved. Calyx's buttress design proved remarkably effective, allowing them to raise the ceiling height and improve air circulation while maintaining structural integrity. The thermal vapor channels were reinstalled with greater efficiency, raising the interior temperature, another crucial degree. As Maya stepped outside to inspect their exterior reinforcements, she noticed something disturbing: large, asymmetrical tracks in the fresh snow, circling the crater rim. Whatever had made them was heavy enough to leave deep impressions and possessed an unusual gait pattern suggesting multiple limbs. Maya returned to the shelter quickly, knife drawn. "We have company," she announced quietly. "Something large is circling our position." The Norvik limped to her side, examining the knife with concern. "That will not stop a Cryonian ice stalker. They have hides thicker than the shelter walls." "You know what made those tracks?" Maya asked. The reptilian alien nodded grimly. "My species has previous expeditionary data on Cryon 7. The ice stalkers are apex predators, transparent fur, infrared sensing organs, drawn to body heat and blood scent." It gestured to its own bandaged leg. "My wound may have attracted it," Maya thought quickly. "Then we need defensive measures. The shelter's working too well to abandon it now." She gathered the group for an emergency planning session. "We need to prepare for a possible attack. Our advantages: the stalker can't fit through our narrow entrance, and it's likely hunting by scent and heat signature rather than sight." "We could dig pit traps," suggested one of the humanoid contestants. "If the ice is thin enough in certain areas." "Or create decoys," added the Aven. "False heat signatures to confuse it." Maya nodded. "Both good. We'll implement multiple strategies. Calyx, your species has enhanced strength. Could you help prepare defensive implements? We need ice spears, barricades." Calyx extended all 4 limbs in agreement. "I will create weapons." They worked with urgent efficiency, preparing their defenses. The entrance corridor was redesigned with sharp turns and narrower passages. Pit traps were excavated at strategic points around the crater slope, disguised with thin ice sheets that would break under the stalker's weight. Inside the shelter, they crafted crude but effective weapons: ice spears hardened in the cold, barricades with sharpened points, even simple alarm systems using ice chimes that would sound if disturbed. Maya oversaw the preparations, drawing on military training she had hoped never to use again. As she helped the Avon fashion an ice spear reinforced with bone fragments from their earlier animal find, her mind flashed back to her failed Arctic rescue, the sense of helplessness, the bitter knowledge that sometimes nature simply wins. "Not this time," she murmured, testing the spear's balance. "Not on my watch." Night fell once again, bringing with it a strange silence. The storm had temporarily abated, leaving an eerie calm broken only by occasional ice shifts and the distant calls of unknown creatures. The group maintained heightened alert, all sleep cycles canceled until the threat passed. Maya positioned sentries at observation points, small ice windows carefully carved to provide visibility without compromising insulation. She took the most dangerous position herself, in a small forward chamber near the entrance where she could respond quickly to any intrusion. Hours passed in tense silence. Maya found herself drifting into a light doze, despite her best efforts to remain alert. The relative warmth of the shelter, combined with her exhaustion from continuous physical labor, made staying awake increasingly difficult. A subtle vibration through the ice floor jerked her back to full awareness. Something heavy was moving nearby. Maya held her breath, listening intently as the vibrations grew stronger. The warning came as a series of rapid clicks from the Avon's position, their established danger signal. Maya moved silently to the main chamber, where the others had already taken defensive positions. "Movement at the northwest rim," the Avon whispered, wings partially extended in an instinctive threat display. "Large entity, moving methodically." Maya nodded. "Everyone remember your positions. No sudden movements. No unnecessary sounds." They waited in tense silence as the vibrations continued, circling their position. Then, suddenly, they stopped. The silence that followed was somehow more terrifying than the approaching footfalls had been. "It's hunting," the Norvik whispered, "assessing our defenses." Maya gripped her ice spear tightly, eyes fixed on the entrance corridor. "Stay ready." The attack, when it came, was not from the direction they expected. A tremendous crash sounded from the shelter's eastern wall, the thinnest section of their structure. Ice fractured and splintered as something massive drove itself against the barrier. "Eastern defensive team, now!" Maya shouted, abandoning stealth as the creature attacked again, this time breaking partially through the wall. Through the jagged hole, Maya caught her first glimpse of the ice stalker, a nightmare of transparent fur and gleaming fangs. The creature was enormous, easily 3 meters at the shoulder, with 6 powerful limbs ending in clawed appendages designed for gripping ice. Its head housed multiple sensory organs that pulsed with bioluminescent light, and its mouth contained rows of serrated teeth that could shear through ice and bone with equal ease. Maya and Calyx led the defense, driving their ice spears toward the breach, while the others rapidly constructed a secondary barrier. The stalker roared, a sound that seemed to resonate through the ice itself, and slashed at the opening, widening it enough to thrust its massive head through. "Fall back to secondary positions," Maya ordered, as the creature's hot breath fogged the freezing air. She jabbed her spear forward, connecting with something solid beneath the transparent fur. The stalker recoiled momentarily, giving them precious seconds to retreat. The shelter's carefully planned defensive layout now proved its worth. As they fell back to the central chamber, the stalker followed, breaking through the weakened wall entirely. But to reach them, it had to navigate the narrow, twisting corridor they had designed, a space too confined for its massive body to maneuver effectively. The stalker growled in frustration, clawing at the passage and sending ice shards flying in all directions. Its powerful limbs easily destroyed their outer defenses. But the reinforced inner walls held, barely. "We need to drive it back," Maya called to the others. "Calx, the spears. Everyone else, prepare for evacuation if the inner walls fail." The multi-limbed alien joined Maya at the defensive line. 4 ice spears clutched in its limbs. Together, they jabbed at the stalker's exposed head and limbs whenever it pushed forward, aiming for the eyes and other vulnerable points. The battle continued for what seemed like hours, but was likely only minutes. The stalker, growing increasingly frustrated by its inability to reach its prey, began tearing at the shelter's supporting structure instead. Ice groaned and shifted as critical support columns were damaged. "It's trying to collapse the shelter on us," Maya realized aloud. "We need to end this now." In that moment, Maya made a decision that went against every survival instinct she possessed. Instead of retreating further, she advanced toward the raging predator. "Maya, no!" called the Aven in alarm. But Maya had already committed, using the confined space to her advantage. She ducked under the stalker's slashing claws and drove her ice spear upward with all her strength, aiming for the soft tissue beneath the jaw. The spear connected, driving deep into the creature's flesh. Hot, steaming blood poured down the shaft, instantly melting the ice and splattering across Maya's survival suit. The stalker let out a deafening roar of pain and rage, thrashing violently in the confined space. Maya barely managed to roll clear as one massive paw swept toward her, claws raking across her leg and tearing through the thermal fabric. Pain lanced up her thigh, but adrenaline kept her moving, scrambling back toward the relative safety of the inner chamber. The wounded stalker, rather than pressing its attack, began to retreat. Maya's strike had not been fatal, but it had caused enough pain to make the predator reconsider its assault. With a final, rumbling growl, the stalker backed out of the shattered entrance, leaving behind a trail of steaming blood that rapidly froze against the ice. Inside the damaged shelter, Maya collapsed against a wall, clutching her injured leg. The Aven immediately came to her aid, examining the wound with surprising gentleness. "The claws missed major vessels," it reported, voice tinged with relief. "But the cuts are deep." Calix approached, compound eyes fixed on Maya with what appeared to be respect. That was either exceptional bravery or exceptional foolishness, perhaps both. Maya managed a pained smile. Sometimes they're the same thing. The immediate threat had passed, but their situation remained precarious. The shelter had been severely damaged, with nearly a third of their carefully constructed insulation torn away. Cold air rushed in through the breached wall, rapidly lowering the internal temperature. Blood, both Maya's and the stalker's, had splattered across the ice, potentially attracting other predators. "We need to rebuild," Maya said, through gritted teeth as the Aven bandaged her leg, using strips torn from thermal blankets. "The stalker might return once it recovers from the wound." "You cannot work in this condition," Calix objected. "The injury requires rest." Maya shook her head stubbornly. "Arctic survival rule number 2. Rest is a luxury, not a necessity. I can direct while others implement." Despite protests, Maya insisted on overseeing the reconstruction efforts. The group worked tirelessly, rebuilding the damaged sections and reinforcing them with additional ice supports. The breach was sealed with a combination of ice blocks and the remaining animal hide, creating a barrier that, while not as elegant as their original design, would keep out the worst of the cold. The silicon-based contestant, who had remained quiet throughout much of their ordeal, now stepped forward with an unexpected contribution. It pressed its crystalline appendages against the damaged ice walls, causing a chemical reaction that strengthened and partially melted the surface, then rapidly refroze it into a more solid structure. "My species builds entire cities using this technique," it explained, the first time it had volunteered information about its homeworld. "The molecular bonds are approximately 30% stronger than natural ice formations, Maya thanked it with genuine appreciation. That's exactly the kind of adaptation that makes interspecies cooperation so valuable. By the time they had restored the shelter to a habitable condition, Maya's leg had stiffened painfully. The wound wasn't life-threatening, but it limited her mobility significantly. She found herself relying on a crude ice crutch fashioned by the Norvik, who understood all too well the challenges of injury in extreme environments. "You should have led the group from the beginning," the reptilian alien told her as they inspected the reinforced entrance together. "My people have a saying, the coldest wind reveals the strongest branch." Maya smiled at the alien wisdom that somehow echoed human proverbs from worlds away. "On Earth, we say pressure makes diamonds." As the second night on Cryon 7 descended, the group gathered in the central chamber of their rebuilt shelter. The temperature had stabilized at just above freezing, a remarkable achievement given the damage they had sustained. The thermal vapor channels had been reconstructed with greater efficiency, and the new crystalline reinforcement provided unexpected insulative properties. For the first time since landing, a sense of cautious optimism pervaded the shelter. They had survived not only the extreme environment, but also a direct attack from an apex predator. Their combined skills had created a survival structure that none could have managed individually. Maya sat on the raised sleeping platform, leg propped carefully before her, surveying the diverse group of beings that had become her unlikely companions. The Avon was preening its wings, which had recovered enough to allow limited gliding. The Norvik and silicon-based contestant were engaged in quiet conversation about structural engineering principles. Calyx and the humanoids were reinforcing the sleeping platform with additional insulation. Even the gelatinous alien that had been most skeptical of Maya's leadership had integrated into the group, its specialized knowledge of thermal dynamics proving invaluable in redesigning their vapor channels. "We've done well," Maya said, drawing their attention. "Better than well. We've done something remarkable here." The Avon chirped in agreement, its species equivalent of laughter. "The committee expected us to create individual shelters. Instead, we built a community. A survival strategy with clear evolutionary advantages," added Calyx. "Even on my homeworld, where temperatures fluctuate between extremes, cooperation has proven more effective than competition in crisis situations." Maya nodded. Humans learned that lesson thousands of years ago. No matter how strong the individual, the group survives where the loner perishes. Their philosophical discussion was interrupted by a familiar sound, the low, rumbling call of an ice stalker. But this time, it came from much further away, beyond the crater rim. "It's establishing territory," explained the Norvik, "warning others away from its hunting ground, and from its prey." The reptilian alien fixed Maya with an appraising gaze. "You wounded it, but also earned its respect." Maya wasn't entirely comfortable with the idea of being respected by a predator, but she understood the sentiment. On Earth, indigenous hunters had always honored the creatures they fought, recognizing the balance between predator and prey. As the night deepened, exhaustion finally overcame even the most resilient among them. They established a rotating watch schedule, allowing most to rest while maintaining vigilance. Maya, despite her protests, was assigned a full rest period to help her injury heal. As she drifted toward sleep, Maya found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this frozen alien world. After her failure in the Arctic, she had nearly abandoned her career entirely. Only the encouragement of her former commander had persuaded her to apply for the Interplanetary Survival Strategic Unit, a position most considered beyond the reach of a primitive human. "Prove them wrong," her commander had told her. "Show them what humans can do when pushed to the edge." Now, lying in a shelter built from ice and animal hide on a planet light years from Earth, surrounded by beings whose biology she barely comprehended, Maya felt a sense of purpose she had thought lost forever. Here, stripped of technology and forced to rely on the most fundamental survival skills. She had found her value again. She fell asleep to the soft sounds of alien breathing and the gentle hiss of thermal vapor flowing through ice channels. A lullaby unlike any on Earth, yet somehow comforting in its unfamiliarity. The final day of their ordeal dawned with unexpected clarity. The storms that had raged since their arrival had dissipated, revealing a sky of deep indigo streaked with ribbons of pale blue. The twin moons hung low on the horizon, one already setting, while the other remained partially visible. Maya awoke to find the shelter bustling with activity. During her rest, the others had continued improvements, adding refinements she hadn't considered. The Avon had created a series of ice prisms that captured and diffused the meager sunlight, providing natural illumination throughout the structure. The silicon-based contestant had further developed its crystalline reinforcement technique, creating beautiful, latticed support columns that were both stronger and more visually appealing than their utilitarian predecessors. Most surprisingly, the gelatinous alien had used its unique biology to filter the shelter's air, removing accumulated carbon dioxide and other respiratory byproducts that had begun to make the enclosed space stuffy. "Your leg is better?" asked Calyx, approaching with what appeared to be a steaming cup fashioned from ice. Maya carefully tested her injured limb, pleased to find the pain had subsided to a dull ache. "Much better. What's that?" Calyx handed her the cup. "Thermal extract from the ice algae, combined with melted ice water. It contains nutrients similar to your Earth proteins. The Norvik suggested it might accelerate your healing." Maya accepted the offering gratefully, touched by the thoughtfulness behind it. The liquid was surprisingly palatable, earthy, with a slight sweetness that reminded her of certain Arctic lichens. As she drank, warmth spread through her body, chasing away the lingering chill that had settled in her bones. "Thank you," she said simply. "All of you. For everything." The Avon chirped softly. "We should be thanking you, Ice Leader." Maya raised an eyebrow at the new title. "It is what we have been calling you," explained the Norvik. "In my language, it is a term of great respect, one who finds paths through frozen obstacles." Before Maya could respond, a faint humming sound penetrated the shelter walls. Everyone tensed, recalling yesterday's attack. But this noise was different, mechanical rather than biological. "Examination drones," announced one of the humanoid contestants, pressing a sensory organ against the ice wall. "They're scanning the crater." Maya checked her wristband chronometer. "We're approaching the 48-hour mark. The committee is evaluating our survival." The group gathered near the entrance, watching as sleek, metallic drones circled overhead, bathing the crater in pale green scanning beams. One drone hovered directly above their shelter, its sensors visibly registering the heat signature and structural composition. "They appear impressed," Calyx observed, interpreting the drone's movement patterns. The scan intensity suggests detailed analysis rather than cursory evaluation. After several minutes of examination, the drones retreated to the crater rim, where they hovered in formation. A moment later, a brilliant holographic projection illuminated the crater, the examination committee appearing as towering figures of light. The central figure, a tall alien with features similar to Calyx, but with 6 limbs instead of 4, addressed them directly, voice amplified to reach the crater floor. "Contestants of Shelter Echo Alpha, prepare for extraction. Your examination period concludes in 15 minutes. Remain in your current position for retrieval." Maya exchanged glances with her companions. "Shelter Echo Alpha?" They named it officially. The Avon's wings fluttered with excitement. "Recognition of our collaborative approach, unprecedented in examination history." The shelter's entrance had been damaged during the stalker attack and subsequent repairs, requiring careful navigation to exit safely. Maya led the way, testing each step to ensure structural integrity. Behind her, the others gathered their meager possessions, mostly items they had crafted during their stay. Outside, the full extent of their accomplishment became apparent. What had begun as a simple ice cave had evolved into a complex structure with multiple chambers, reinforced walls, and sophisticated insulation. From the exterior, the shelter resembled a natural ice formation, its entrances carefully disguised and protected. Only the subtle vapor emissions from the thermal channels and the crystalline reinforcements betrayed its artificial nature. Maya stood back, admiring their creation with pride. "It's beautiful." "And functional," added the Norvik. "The perfect balance." As they waited for extraction, the group formed a loose circle in the crater's center. Despite their diverse biologies and cultural backgrounds, a bond had formed during their shared ordeal, one that transcended species differences and initial prejudices. The gelatinous alien, who had been most resistant to Maya's leadership, approached her directly. "I was incorrect in my assessment of human capabilities," it admitted, its transparent body pulsing with what Maya interpreted as sincerity. "Technological dependency has limited my species' adaptability. This has been educational." Maya smiled. "For all of us, I think." One by one, the alien contestants presented Maya with small tokens, cultural gestures of respect and affiliation. The Avon offered a perfectly formed ice crystal that captured and refracted light in dazzling patterns. The Norvik gave her a scale from its own body, a sacred gift among its people. Calx presented an intricate knot formed from its specialized exoskeletal fiber, representing interconnected strength. "Ice Leader," said Calx formally, "you have earned a place among the stars. May your species join ours in the greater community." Before Maya could respond, the extraction ship appeared overhead, its massive form blocking the alien sun and casting the crater into shadow. Tractor beams engaged, gently lifting the contestants from the surface one by one. As Maya rose through the air, she took a final look at Shelter Echo Alpha, their temporary home that had become so much more. In just 48 hours, they had not only survived, but thrived in conditions that should have been lethal. More importantly, they had done it together, combining ancient survival techniques with alien knowledge to create something unique. The ship's interior was warm, almost uncomfortably so after their adaptation to Cryon 7's frigid environment. Medical personnel of various species immediately attended to the injured, whisking Maya and the Norvik to separate examination chambers. Maya's leg wound was treated with advanced medical technology, healing in minutes what would have taken weeks on Earth. Fresh clothing was provided, soft, comfortable garments that felt strange after the rigid thermal suit she had worn for 2 days. After medical clearance, Maya was escorted to a large auditorium where the other contestants had already gathered. The examination committee sat on a raised platform, their diverse physiologies representing major spacefaring species from across the known galaxy. The chairperson, the six-limbed alien from the holographic projection, rose as Maya entered. Major Maya Lin of Earth approached the committee. Maya walked forward, conscious of the attention focused on her. Her leg, though healed, still carried a phantom ache that reminded her of the Ice Stalker's attack. "Your performance on Cryon 7 was unexpected," the chairperson stated, compound eyes shifting through various spectrums as it observed her. "Humans were included in this examination as a diplomatic courtesy to your government. We did not anticipate meaningful results." Maya remained silent, allowing the committee member to continue. "Instead, you not only survived, but led a diverse group to create one of the most effective shelter structures in examination history. Your primitive techniques, combined with interspecies cooperation, achieved results that our most advanced predictive models failed to anticipate." The chairperson activated a holographic display showing detailed scans of Shelter Echo Alpha. The images rotated slowly, highlighting the structural elements, insulation techniques, and defensive modifications. Particularly notable was your response to the Ice Stalker attack, a threat that has claimed the lives of numerous examinees in previous cycles. Your tactical approach, while simplistic by our standards, proved remarkably effective. Maya finally spoke. With respect, Chairperson, sometimes simplicity is an advantage. Complex solutions require complex resources. In true survival situations, we rarely have that luxury. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the auditorium. Several committee members exchanged meaningful glances. Indeed, the chairperson acknowledged. A perspective our technological advancement has perhaps obscured. It gestured to the other committee members. We have reached a unanimous decision. Major Maya Lin, you are hereby accepted into the Interplanetary Survival Strategic Unit with the rank of Instructor First Class. Maya blinked in surprise. Instructor? I expected a junior operational position. Your demonstrated ability to synthesize diverse approaches and lead multicultural teams is precisely what the unit requires in its educational division, explained the chairperson. You will train future generations of survival specialists, both human and non-human. The announcement was met with approval from the assembled contestants, particularly those who had shared Shelter Echo Alpha. The Avon's wings fluttered in their species' expression of joy, while Kallax extended all four limbs in formal salute. Furthermore, continued the chairperson, all members of Shelter Echo Alpha who wish to join the unit will be accepted, regardless of previous qualifications. Your collective achievement has earned this consideration. Maya felt a surge of pride as her shelter companions reacted to the news, with various expressions of surprise and delight. Even the silicon-based contestant, normally stoic, displayed crystalline patterns that suggested emotional response. As the formal ceremony concluded, Maya found herself surrounded by her fellow survivors, accepting congratulations and discussing future possibilities. The Avon expressed interest in continuing their partnership, while Kallax offered insights into the unit's operational structure based on its species' previous involvement. Ice Leader, said the Norvik, using the title that had now been formally recognized by the committee. Will you share more of your Earth techniques when we begin training? Maya smiled warmly. Only if you'll teach me about your world's survival strategies in return. That's the whole point, isn't it? We're stronger together than any of us are alone. Later, as the examination vessel prepared to depart Cryon 7, Maya stood at a viewport, watching the frozen world recede beneath them. Somewhere on that icy surface, a wounded ice stalker prowled the crater that had been their home. Shelter Echo Alpha remained, a testament to what diverse beings could accomplish when necessity stripped away prejudice and preconception. Kallax joined her at the viewport, its translucent form reflecting the starlight. Your thoughts, Ice Leader? I was thinking about what we built down there, Maya replied. Not just the physical shelter, but what it represents. A new understanding between species, Kallax suggested. Maya nodded. And a reminder that sometimes the oldest solutions are still the best. My ancestors survived ice ages with nothing but stone tools and animal hides. Their knowledge lives on in techniques I used on a planet they could never have imagined. The committee underestimated humans, Kallax observed. A miscalculation they are unlikely to repeat. Perhaps that's the most important outcome of all this, Maya said thoughtfully. Not just earning respect for humanity, but demonstrating that technological advancement, without retaining fundamental survival knowledge, creates a dangerous vulnerability. The ship accelerated, leaving Cryon 7 behind as it entered faster than light travel. Maya watched the stars blur into streaks of light, her mind already turning to the challenges ahead. She had found her purpose again, bridging the gap between primitive survival techniques and advanced interstellar civilization, teaching beings from 100 worlds that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most enduring. As the ship's artificial night cycle began, Maya returned to her assigned quarters. Her leg still ached faintly where the ice stalker's claws had torn through flesh, a permanent reminder of lessons learned on a frozen world. She touched the small tokens given to her by her shelter companions, now arranged carefully on a shelf above her bed. Each represented a connection formed through shared struggle and mutual respect. Maya Lin, once a failed Arctic rescue specialist, now ice leader and instructor to the stars, closed her eyes and dreamed of shelter walls built from ice and trust, stronger than any single material could ever be.